koutou, no mai haere mai, and a very warm welcome to everyone to Mahi Matters, New Zealand's employment market update. Today we're looking at the renewed burnout surge. What's draining Kiwi workers the most? Are Kiwi workers reaching a breaking point? This week we are joined by Dr Christina Baird, psychologist and kindness consultant at the Kindness Workshop NZ, to explore what's really driving this renewed wave of burnout and what leaders can do to intervene before the impact becomes widespread. Also on today's show, hiring speed under scrutiny. Are slow decisions costing you the right talent? We'll explore our latest job opportunities across New Zealand. And lastly, wellbeing initiatives. Has your company decreased their focus on wellbeing in the last year? A recent survey revealed that a staggering 2/3 of Kiwi workers are feeling somewhat or extremely burnt out heading into the new year. With burnout once again surging across New Zealand, organisations are being challenged to rethink how they support their teams, rebuild resilience, and address the root causes behind the pressure. Why are so many Kiwis feeling stretched thin? What's causing the strain? And what meaningful actions can workplaces take right now? Luckily, I've got some help to tackle this issue. So to discuss this further, we're joined today by Dr. Christina Baird, a psychologist, kindness consultant at the Kindness Workshop NZ. Kia ora, Christina.
Kia ora, Shannon. So yes, I'm Christina Baird, a psychologist and kindness consultant. My business is called the Kindness Workshop because I believe that kindness is what workplaces need to help people thrive and do their best work. So I provide therapy for people in burnout and experiencing workplace stress. I do team training for teams who want to prevent burnout through creating cultures of care, and I do some values coaching for leaders.
Fantastic. Sounds like just what we need. Now, of course, we've seen that 63% of Kiwis are feeling somewhat or extremely burnt out. Does this number surprise you? And does it actually reflect what it feels like on the ground?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that number. And it might be good as we start this conversation to talk a little bit about what burnout actually is. And burnout is a response to continued or prolonged workplace stress that has been poorly managed or mismanaged. And it's characterized by a feeling of exhaustion, a feeling of cynicism or detachment. So, the changes you think you could bring, you suddenly don't care anymore. You might experience some cognitive fog, so things are difficult to concentrate, things take you longer to read than they used to, and you no longer feel effective in your job. So burnout is a lot more than just feeling tired at the end of the week, needing a weekend to recover, and being able to bounce back on Monday. It's sort of a prolonged experience of these things. And in my conversations this year, I'm finding that people are talking a lot more about a workload in particular. So people seem to be being asked to do more. They might be working later, they might be working more hours, not getting as much downtime. The rhythm of their week or month is really high-paced with none of those slow spots where you catch up on your emails and do a few admin tasks or tidy your desk. So workload has particularly been something that people are concerned about this year, I've been noticing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, hearing you describe what exactly burnout is, it sounded very familiar to, it sounds a lot like perimenopause, but of course, it doesn't just affect females of a certain age, but, a lot of us have got that to contend with as well. But you're right in saying, of course, that, a lot of businesses, it's been some tough conditions that we've been grinding our way through over the last couple of years. And as you said, there'll be a lot of people who are trying to, do more with less, take on extra responsibilities. They might have smaller teams and they'd usually have to cover these things. And it all starts to take its toll there. You've mentioned a few things there, but what would you say are the main factors right now that are driving the surge in burnout across Aotearoa?
Yeah, so we've talked about the actual workload. People are expected to do more with less. Covering other people, just achieving more. There's a real drive towards effectiveness and efficiency. And I think it's important, I really want to reinforce too, that burnout is about work systems, not individual resilience. So we know that the causes of burnout are in the workplace. They're not primarily within people. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about things like we've talked about workload, but we're also seeing this real, and this is influenced by society as well. So it's not just about the work system, but what we're seeing in society. And we're dealing with this rise of disconnection. So people are no longer connected into their communities. And we're seeing an impact of hybrid and work from home. And although that has some real positive gains of work flexibility, we're also seeing that hybrid workers in particular feel disconnected and they have less positive relationships in the workplace. And we know that having a supportive community and feeling connected, having friends at work, they're protective factors for burnout. So we're seeing work overload, we're seeing a rise of disconnection, we're seeing a pace of change. Change takes an emotional toll. Often people get quite upset about change often, but also with things like technological change, it adds to workload. So we're told that AI is going to help us, increase our effectiveness, but there's a real learning place there where we have to allocate time to making it work well for us. And so there's these things as well that are adding to workload, adding to tension, adding to disconnection in the workplace.
Yeah, and I guess that's a really big number, 2/3, basically 2/3 reporting that. I'd suspect it's probably more than that, because you'll have people who think, oh, well, it's getting to the end of the year. I always feel a bit like this, but, when it's adding up all along the way, and as you say, if those, the systems in place or aren't in place, it's going to gradually take its toll there. With that, what are the early signs that leaders and employees themselves should be looking out for before burnout becomes unmanageable? And I guess what are the impacts of choosing to ignore them?
Yeah. So I think with burnout, we're really looking for, as I said before, that sense of detachment. So if you're a leader, you might notice that one of your team is no longer sort of willing to volunteer for extra things anymore. They're no longer pushing their ideas. They sort of have a bit of a don't care, tuned out attitude. That would be a warning sign for me. Burnout often expresses itself in physical symptoms. So, we're looking for someone who's taking a lot of sick leave for common colds and those things. In yourself as an individual, often stomach complaints, indigestion, those sort of things. And I think an inability to switch off. So you're always thinking and worrying about work is a real danger sign. And sleep difficulties often come there too.
Okay. Well, I always like to look on the positive side, or look in, to be able to tackle this in a proactive way. So, what's one thing, if an organisation wanted to make just one meaningful change today to reduce long-term burnout, what advice would you have for them?
I mean, obviously, I'm all about kindness, and I think that's probably the answer to everything. But that's quite complex. But I think even before that, I think being able to have these conversations about burnout. And my background's mainly in healthcare and not-for-profits, and we have a bit of a fear of talking about burnout. And we hear some of those stories of people who have quite severe burnout syndrome, and it's the end of their career sort of thing. And so we're actually quite scared of burnout. And I think just not being afraid to admit these early burnout feelings, because they are quite common, and not everyone goes on to develop the really debilitating burnout syndrome. And the more that we can normalize these conversations and say, hey, I'm feeling a bit burnt out, I think that is really a good step in preventing it. I think we're still not able to have those good conversations. And some of the research that I'm sure you've read as well coming out is saying that managers and team leaders feel ill-equipped to have mental health conversations with their teams. So I think the more that we can equip managers and team leaders to be having these well-being and stress conversations with their teams, the better that we can manage burnout and workplace stress.
Fantastic. Well, some excellent advice there. And of course, the details for the Kindness Workshop NZ are up on your screen. So I'm sure Christina would love to hear from you and had some excellent tips there to help improve your situation, whether that's at work, and to bring a little more kindness into your life. Thank you, Christina.
Thanks, Shannon.
Is slow hiring costing you candidates? Well, it might be. Over the past year, we've seen the labour market tip further in favour of employers, with rising unemployment and fewer jobs giving businesses more leverage in the hiring process. But as we've said before, that's no excuse to get complacent, because the market is bound to swing again. This week's Spotlight shows why staying sharp on candidate experience matters more than ever. New research shows that candidate engagement is declining, and one major culprit is hiring speed. According to HCA Mag, slow and clunky recruitment processes are driving candidates away, even when the job market is tight. People are losing interest halfway through, or worse, taking offers from a faster-moving employer. And that's the thing. Even in a market where unemployment is up and job ads are down, the best candidates still have options. If your hiring process drags on too long, you're giving those options time to find them. We've already seen it happening here, of course. Kiwis are heading offshore in record numbers. And when the market turns, as it always does, competition for talent will ramp up fast. So employers who have built a reputation for being responsive, respectful, and decisive will be the ones who win. So if you're thinking, we can take our time right now, think again. The smartest thing you can do in a soft market is sharpen your hiring process before things heat up again. Speed doesn't mean rushing. It means being clear, being prepared, and respecting the candidate's time. Because when talent becomes scarce again, and it will, Slow won't just lose you candidates, it will lose you reputation. And it's brought to you by our salary guide. So if you're worried about being paid the right salary, check out Frog Recruitment's new online salary guide to compare your salary against others in the industry, gain insights into the New Zealand market, and be prepared for your next job interview. Okay, so let's take a look at a sample of some of the roles on offer we have this week. So it's good to see a few more roles there from Auckland. Wellington had been leading the way there, but we've got a bit more action happening in Tamaki Makaurau. So some of the roles there: legal secretary, senior discipline lead, and sales operations manager, all Auckland based, as well as a payroll officer. So something different from our usual policy roles in Wellington as well. As always, take a look at our website to find out more. That is it for today's show. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, we'd love to hear your comments and any suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover. Hope to see you back here next week. See you next time.